Hey everyone, welcome back to What's News. In today's tech update, we've got a range of stories, starting with a little bit of news about the coronavirus vaccine data, which is all good news, so you want to hear this. And we'll move over to more tech news. And as always, there's a little nugget for those of you who stay and watch to the very end. Thank you so much for that, by the way. Let's get into it. Okay, in our first news today is the coronavirus vaccine. Now, I know you've heard a lot about the vaccine, a lot about the coronavirus, and you don't want to hear about that anymore, but this is important stuff and also it's all good news, so I think you'll want to hear this. Now, it's no secret that a lot of people have been shy about getting the coronavirus vaccine, partly because of the conspiracy theories out there, and I'm not going to address that right now because that's probably a whole different video and I'm not going to get into that. But also because a lot of people believe that these vaccines have not been tested enough out in the field and we don't have enough real world data. Well, it turns out now the Center for Disease Control in the US has released real world data and the results are fantastic. According to the real world data released, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine have an efficacy rate of over 90% in terms of preventing infections from coronavirus. And get this includes the dreaded South African variant of the COVID-19 that everyone's so worried about. And it doesn't stop there. Apparently, they've now got data for adolescents between the years of 12 to 15, and it turns out in that age group and that data set, the vaccines have proven to be over 91% effective in preventing infections from COVID-19, which is again fantastic news. In South Africa, in fact, Pfizer did a little trial where they took 800 people and they gave them either the Pfizer vaccine or a placebo, and turns out in that group only 9 people actually contracted coronavirus, and those 9 people were all in the placebo group. They didn't actually get the vaccine, therefore kind of allowing Pfizer to say they have a 100% efficacy rate. Now those are very small numbers, there's only 800 people, but generally speaking, if you take all these results and trials together, it looks pretty promising. And if you were waiting for real world data and actual out in the field testing of these vaccines, well, now you've got the data, and I strongly urge you to go and get the vaccine so we can all move towards normalcy once again. And speaking of return to normalcy, we see airlines around the world sort of gearing up to getting back into the market, but a lot of passengers might still have some apprehension to flying. So a Swiss company has developed a robot that goes up and down the aisle of the aircraft and UV blasts the whole thing in order to sterilize it. So next time you travel on an airplane, there's a very decent chance it might be completely UV blasted and sterilized before every single flight, which is all awesome because I can't wait to get out of the house and go on a vacation. It has been so long. Now, continuing with the theme of biotech, there's a little bit of news from Johns Hopkins University, which is fascinating. See, they've had a patient who's been a quadriplegic for the last 30 years because of an accident he had when he was a teenager. Well, during a 10-hour surgery, surgeons at the Johns Hopkins University were able to implant electrodes in this man's brain and give him a brain-computer interface, which allowed him to simultaneously control a pair of robotic arms for the very first time, which is fantastic news for all disabled people everywhere. The project itself was funded by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Program of the US military, but the most interesting part of this news is the first thing the man decided to do with his newly acquired robotic arms was to have them cut a piece of cake and feed it to him, which I think is delightful. I mean, look, if you get robotic arms, there's one of two things you can do, right? You can either go the Iron Man way and go and battle people and all that sort of stuff, or you can eat cake. And I choose cake every day of the week. Hashtag make cake, not war. Let's get that trending. Okay, moving over to the tech side of things, Google is reportedly thinking of going the Apple way and making its own microprocessors. See, so far they've been making their phones with microprocessors made by other companies such as Qualcomm and so on, just like every other cell phone manufacturer does. Apple is the exception to the rule because they make their own microprocessors, and generally speaking, you'll see Apple's specifications look quite inferior to a lot of Android alternatives. However, they still work as effectively as their Android counterparts. Google is taking a page out of Apple's book and is reportedly going the same way. So for the Google Pixel 6 or 7 that might come out over the next couple of years, we can maybe expect Google phones to come out with bespoke hardware and software that work very, very well with each other because they'd be made for each other, and maybe we'll get Apple levels of optimization even with lower levels of hardware. In other tech news, we have the gaming side of things. Now, for those of you who are gamers, and I know a lot of you are gamers, specifically mobile gaming, there's a little ray of silver light if you've been recently frustrated by the amount of hackers and cheaters that we found in game. Now, for those of you who are not gamers, I'll run it down really quick. People play video games that are mostly multiplayer and competitive nowadays. You can either play it as a professional level for money, or you can play it as an amateur but still be competitive. The problem is there are a lot of players that pay for cheats and hacks that give them unfair advantages in game, and it ruins the gaming experience for a lot of people. This apparently is something that has been troubling Tencent for a while in their mobile games. So now Chinese police forces, with some help from Tencent, have cracked down on what they claim to be the largest operator and distributor of cheats in China. They've cracked down on an office and found $42 million worth of assets, and they claim that this company was made by individuals who were raking in over $10,000 a month selling cheats. Cheats apparently were available to people at a rate of about $10 a day or above $200 a month. They span mostly mobile games, but also some PC games like Overwatch and Valorant. So if you've been plagued by hackers or cheaters recently, then going forward there may be a few less cheaters in your games, so you might be able to enjoy your games just for a little while until the next batch of hackers come about, which we all know is going to happen anyway. But till then, at least a little bit of respite for those of us who don't want to cheat and who just want to enjoy the game and enjoy the competitiveness. And that's pretty much it for our short segment today. But as always, I leave you with a little bit of a nugget. Now, you might have heard about NASA's rover on Mars, the Perseverance, and so on. What you may not have heard is that they also sent a little helicopter that can fly around Mars and provide aerial footage of Mars. This will also mark the first flight on Mars by any human beings, even though it's by remote control. But what's interesting is, along with this helicopter, NASA has actually included a small piece of the canvas that was used in the original Wright brothers plane, just to establish a connection between Earth and Mars and to symbolically signify the first human flight on Mars. I just thought this was very interesting that there's a piece of the Wright brothers plane to commemorate our first controlled powered flight on Mars. That's it for today's episode. We'll see you in the next one. Stay colorful.